Story 1. I, F30, am questioning our plans to move in together because my boyfriend, 41M, can't tell me he loves me, r/relationships, Reddit stories. I have been dating my boyfriend for more than 10 months and it has honestly been wonderful. We get along so easily, he is attentive to my needs, a warm and welcoming person for the most part, and has integrated me into his life, introducing me to family and friends. His lease will expire next February and he brought up searching for a new place together. We have started looking at apartments, but I feel increasingly insecure in the relationship and am looking for advice on how to move forward. The first time I shared my feelings for him, I told him I was falling in love after 4 months of dating. Admittedly, that was quite early on and it was understandable that he didn't reciprocate at the time, but he literally only said, "That's nice," in response. We had a bit of an emotional discussion afterwards where I told him this made me feel rather unsure of his feelings, but he reassured me we were fine and it didn't weigh too heavily on my mind afterwards. Fast forward another 6 months, we had a lovely weekend together and I casually told him I loved him. No big moment or anything, but we had been drinking a bit and the only thing he said in response was that he would like to hear me say that when I'm sober. It didn't come up the next day, but 2 weeks or so later, we were lying in bed and talking about the move that may be ahead, and I was honest with him and told him I felt a bit insecure to share my feelings with him at this stage because he hadn't reciprocated, and that this makes me nervous about our move. He told me it made him sad that I was so focused on words rather than action, that he had serious feelings for me, that he really liked me. I have to admit, this made me so sad to hear. I asked if he could tell me the reason why he wouldn't say he loves me, but he said he couldn't. So here we are. Of course he shouldn't say it just because he feels forced, so I feel like I shouldn't bring it up again, but at the same time, it feels absolutely insane to me to move in together with your partner when they can't tell you they love you. Is that valid? Is it a bad sign for our future, or a sign of a lack of emotional connection? Should I give him more time and proceed with our plans for now? I don't know if I'm being overly anxious or if this is as bad as it feels. Any advice or experience is much appreciated. TLDR, boyfriend of 10 months wants to start looking for a shared apartment, but can't tell me he loves me. I'm wondering if it makes sense to continue with our plans. Story 2. I don't know how to find my fiancé attractive now. I don't know how to find my fiancé attractive now. I, 25F, am having a hard time finding my 24M attractive after built-up resentment for his actions. We've been dating for nearly 2 years now and it hasn't been an easy relationship. We've been through a lot and I've helped him overcome his alcoholism. Our relationship is good for the most part and I feel like I can be my most authentic self with him. The problem that has come up the most frequently is that he follows and likes thirst traps on social media. I do have my insecurities, but I've set this boundary him multiple times that it makes me uncomfortable. He's also made comments about my body in the past that have made me feel even more insecure, but that was when he had a drinking problem. They still hurt, but I don't think he'd make those comments now. We got engaged this past December 2022 and I told him that I don't want to see any of that anymore because it's hurtful and disrespectful to me. Silly me for believing him, because what do I find Valentine's Day evening? Him liking TikToks of thirst traps. This has been a repetitive fight between us. Since Valentine's Day, he hasn't done anything that I've known of. He has tried to make me feel better about my body, but he would tell me I was attractive before while liking other thirst traps, so it doesn't feel very genuine. It's also affected our intimacy because I don't want to sleep with someone if I feel like he might be comparing me to those girls. I don't feel good enough for him because I feel like I'm in constant competition with girls online/IRL. We've had this discussion many times and we've had open and honest conversations about this. It seems to have gotten better since Valentine's Day, but I don't want to be in this constant paranoia of him having a wandering eye. I want to try and fix this and fix my attraction towards him. He does have good redeeming qualities and he isn't actively doing anything, liking pictures, following other girls, etc., that I know of. How do I find him attractive again and let go of this resentment? He said he's willing to help in any way he can, or am I stupid to believe him this time? TLDR. My fiancé used to like thirst traps on social media and it's affected my attraction towards him. How do I fix this and my attraction towards him? Story 3. Fiancé is terrible with money. My M24 fiancé, F24, is terrible with money and it angers me. She insists we spend money on stupid stuff we don't need. For example, recently she made me go half with her on patio furniture which I didn't even really want and wouldn't stop complaining until I agreed. The most recent debacle that has me mad beyond means is she called me asking in a very demanding way that I loan her money to purchase T-Swift tickets from some person she found online. I say it's a bad idea and likely a scam and that we should be saving money for our honeymoon, which so far I'm the only one who has saved anything for it. She then gets mad at me and I give her the money to avoid an argument. Turns out it was a scam. It angers me even more that it seems like things like the honeymoon are on the back burner in her mind apparently, while selfish things like a Taylor Swift concert take priority spending-wise. I guess I'm looking for advice to deal with this. Is there something I can do to stop her from being terrible with money? TLDR, my fiancé is a terrible spender and how to make it stop. Story 4. I, 26F, rarely see my husband, 27M, because of his work. In 12 years of being with my husband, I have never seen him less because of his work. My husband is an aerospace engineer and was suddenly promoted to a new division in the company 2 weeks ago. Ever since then, he has been working absurd hours, and I rarely see him. He comes home a maximum of once a week for no more than 2 hours. The last time I saw him was yesterday at midnight when he abruptly came home with 2 coworkers and began ransacking the house for coffee, energy drinks, pens, books, pencils, and paper. He went into our attic and took all of his college papers and textbooks. All of them looked exhausted, with eye bags and messy hair. He hardly acknowledged my presence, being focused on retrieving the supplies they needed. We were supposed to go to Argentina to visit my family, but it seems he won't be able to anymore. I hate not being able to see him. I want it to end, but I don't know how to deal with the situation, considering I have such little time to talk to him about anything. Are there any other options besides waiting for him to finish his work? Edit. He came home briefly last night, and I was able to ask him a few questions such as, how long is this going to last, why he is putting up with it, etc. He admitted that he wasn't actually promoted, but instead volunteered for the position and knew the hours he would have to work. He absolutely refused to elaborate on what he was doing and told me it would take about another month if he or any of his coworkers would take time off. He seemed very passionate about the project, but wouldn't specify what it was. He also made it clear he wouldn't come to Argentina. To answer a few questions, I have a very small support system here. My parents moved back to Argentina, my sister lives in Florida, and I have very few friends who live around here since we had to move for his job. Also, no, my husband doesn't work for SpaceX, he works more with planes. Texting is also near useless because he can't take his phone into his office. TLDR, my husband is working insane hours and as a result, I can't see him as much as I want to. Story number 5. How can I, M/26, support my friend, M/24, over something that happened that was his mistake? My friend has been on the edge of failing school for the last few years, which is why he's been in school for an extended period of time. He's exceeded the number of retakes and somehow managed to squeeze extra ones. Anyways, he's been told by his faculty advisor that if gets another F this term, he will be expelled from the university. He has this BFF that lives a couple of states over and my friend usually goes to visit him 3 times a year. However, this past weekend, his BFF was coming here to visit from Thursday to Sunday, and the big problem is that my friend's final is on Friday. He's on the brink of an F. If he does reasonably well, he avoids the F, and if he does poorly, he will flunk out. Instead of studying, he decided to go to a club with his BFF and got hammered. He went into the final hungover. Final grades were released on Monday and he got an F for the term and will be removed from the university. Understandably, he's distraught. I honestly don't know how to provide him any support when the problem he's facing was created by his own, in my opinion, massively idiotic decision. Story number 6. My 29M mom, 53F, feels disrespected now that I'm spending less attention on her. I need some guidance in regards of how to navigate the relationship with my mom. She raised me as a single mom, worked hard, basically put her dreams and wishes and health into me. Now I moved abroad, which she took very hard but finally accepted. I used to visit her all the time when I was back in my home country and I'm visiting her and flying back as much as I can now. A few months ago I started a relationship with a girl, we spend quite some time together and we're happy. As a result, maybe my daily phone calls with my mum was not as frequent or long. But that's where my mum started to get weird. She started saying often that I'm just forgetting her in a favor of some random chick. When I announced our first holiday together in an exotic country, my mum called my girlfriend an insane bimbo and it's her fault we're going there because I would never come up with this, and if something bad happens, God help my girlfriend, because it's not safe. I'm supposed to be flying back home for a week next week, but she's super unhappy because I used to stay longer when I was single. I would stay 2 or 3 weeks in her house, which is way too long, personally. She again blames my girlfriend for this, that I'm forgetting my mum for some one random chick out of dozens to come. When I finally snapped and I said that I cannot be holding on to my mother and I need to cultivate my personal relationships with other people, my tone maybe was not the best. She snapped, dropped the phone call and announced that I'm way out of line recently and I'm not even noticing that. I do get sassy when annoyed and maybe I said some hurtful things, but it's just the whole dynamic of our relationship that really puts me on edge and makes me invalidated. I don't even want to go home at this point. It's just so much recently. But if I wouldn't go, she would see it basically as a declaration of cutting ties. I'm at a loss. What do I do? TLDR, my mum feels abandoned and disrespected now that I have a girlfriend. I'm supposed to go visit her next week, but it's clearly going to be negative as hell, lost at what to do with our relationship. Story number 7. Is it worth fighting for? Let's see, I'm a 35 years old, and she's 37. We have lived together officially, signed lease, the last 6 months and have been together for 2 years and just recently took a break for about a month. We started pretty hot and fast and spent a lot of time together, and I would basically say moved in together as I had roommates and she didn't. So I would basically be at her house all the time. If I wasn't at work I'd be with her. I've had issues with her trusting me even though I've never been unfaithful or even looked to be with another woman. When I get into a committed relationship I stay committed and hold that value high. I've never cheated in my life but have been cheated on in a past relationship and it was devastating. I know I'm not perfect by any means, but I'm not unfaithful or a terrible human being. She seems to have insecurities. Before we started dating she had just got out of a 17-year relationship which she told me was abusive and was cheated on, and that she has a hard time trusting. I understand her feelings as I've been dealt the same card. I try do everything in my power to make her feel secure and compliment her all the time, tell her she's beautiful, sexy, loving, wonderful, etc., and all I want is for her to feel safe and to trust me. Well, she's always questioning me and what I'm doing and who I'm with and asking about co-workers, only females, and yeah, it gets to me because it makes me feel like I'm not a good partner for her to think these assumptions, i.e. thinks when I'm at work I can sneak away with a co-worker and get it on LOL. I can't even post to social media anymore because she constantly checks who likes my posts. The only ones she is concerned about are other females. She then goes into an interrogation on who these females are and how I know them. She tells me she has bad thoughts/dreams with other girls involving me. It's got to a point where I don't want to go out because I'm worried a fight is going to come up over nothing has happened, and accuses me of looking at other women, so I've isolated myself from friends and family over this in ways. Well, we tried getting back together recently, and while we were split up, for weeks, she was on dating sites and talking with other guys. I didn't care since we were split up and she could do as she pleases. So I tell her I want to be open and honest, and I tell her I had spoke with my ex and had chatted a bit. I could tell she was uncomfortable about it, but I wanted to be open and honest with her. It's not like I was trying to get back with my ex and all we chatted about was life and how each other was doing and happy for each other, etc. Well, the other day, I moved out 4 weeks ago. I had planned to spend a couple nights at her place and left my laptop there during the day while I was at work. Remind you, she's been through my laptop without permission before and called me out on old messages from before we didn't even know each other. She sees it and then texts me while at work asking if she can go on it to see my messages with my ex and that she needs to see these messages to truly trust me. I didn't feel comfortable her doing that and thought it's unhealthy. As we discussed, learning to trust was a big concern for me. So I asked if we could look at it when I got home together so she doesn't assume the worst and we can talk about it together. I didn't have a problem showing her what me and my ex talked about. Well, I get home, open my laptop with her watching over me, which I told her she could do as I had nothing to hide, and show her the texts, but she didn't want to even listen to my side and reads the texts as she wants to see it. Starts yelling and screaming when she strictly told me she would give me a platform to speak my side, but I wasn't able to get that as it went into an intense rage. The texts have no flirting or anything of that nature. She went on saying I want her back and that we were reminiscing our pasts, lol, which wasn't happening. She told me it's over and to go back to my ex, lol. I truly have no interest in my ex, but she was a part of my life and I do appreciate that and have learned a lot from. That's life, right? You live and you learn. So yeah, I'm not sure why I'm still wanting to be with someone who doesn't trust me and wants to control my life in many ways but always tells me she's protecting me. I'm a grown man and can make my own decisions. She also seems to not like some of my friends and family members, which makes it difficult too. She makes me feel bad and like I'm a bad person. I confront her about how I feel and she tells me that's not how she intends to make me feel and that I need to not take it that way. I try not to, but it's hard. I'm a pretty drama-free guy and don't let a lot of things bother me, but this gets to me when she tells me how to feel. Sorry for the rant, but I've just been thinking so much and don't know what to do. She makes me feel like I'm losing myself and walking on eggshells. It sucks because she is great in so many other areas, caring, beautiful, loves hard, a lot of common likes and styles of our relationship, but not trust. Story number 8. I, 21F, haven't met my boyfriend's, 21M, family after 3 to 4 years. New. Me, 21F, and my boyfriend, 21M, have been together for 4 years. We were broken up for 8 months at one point, so really let's say 3-ish. However, I've never met his parents. He's Muslim and I'm Christian, and both of our parents are East African. Initially, I understood why we had never went to the next step of meeting parents cause we were still pretty young, and starting college and stuff. We both knew it would probably be hard to get our parents on board, so we just never talked about it. However, I graduated college with my BS last May and figured that since we were still together after all that time, that we were serious enough to meet each other's parents. I brought the idea up to him of meeting each other's family in February of 2022, and I graduated in May of 2022. He agreed since we were in a serious relationship and had been together for a while, it was a good idea to start introducing each other to our families. Long story short, I fought with my family for like 2 to 3 months before my graduation about it, because they didn't want him to come to my graduation party and didn't support our relationship cause of the religious difference. But I didn't give up, and eventually they got on board with it and were willing to meet him. Fast forward to May 2022, he meets my family at my ceremony, and when it's time for my party, the following week, he showed up hours late, so I got upset and didn't let him come in. Correct me if I'm wrong, I guess, but he was going to meet my extended family at the party, and I just don't feel like you show up 3 hours late to your girlfriend's graduation party knowing she fought for you to even be invited. And he was wearing sweats to a formal party. Anyways, at the end of May, 2022, I asked him where he was about me meeting his family and he ended up saying he wasn't really ready for that. I asked him when did he start feeling like that and why hadn't he communicated that with me. He said he started feeling that way in March, 2022, and just didn't know how to tell me. I felt blindsided because he watched how hard I was fighting with my family, and reassured me every time I was upset that it was okay because we were doing this together. I ended up breaking up with him in May of 2022. Over the summer he kept saying he would introduce me to his family and blah blah if we got back together, and I just felt like it was BS, so I didn't believe it. We ended up getting back together in December of 2022. This month my boyfriend is now graduating from college and months ago told me I was going to meet his family prior to then. Well, he graduates on Friday, tomorrow, and today is Thursday. No, he hasn't told them about me, and no, I haven't met them. I had to ask him a few weeks ago where was his head at with it and when he was going to talk to them about us. He kept saying he was thinking about how to say it, etc. Honestly, if I go to his ceremony on Friday and don't meet anyone, I am thinking to break up with him and not look back. I feel played and lied to. This is the reason we broke up last year, and the main reason we even got back together, because he said he had lots of time to think over the breakup and really wants us to have a future together, so he's ready to take this to the next step and have me meet his parents. I am always the one bringing this conversation up and it's so tiring. A man should want me to meet his family. I don't understand why he would want to get back together so bad if he wasn't serious about introducing us. My real dilemma is I don't know if I should tell him that I will break up with him if I don't meet them at his ceremony tomorrow. It's an ultimatum and I don't want that to be the only reason I met them and lead to resent, etc. in our relationship. What are your thoughts on this, or even the whole situation in general? I could use any kind of advice. TLDR, my BF and I have been together since HS, he's Muslim and I'm Christian. I graduated college last May and he met my family then, after months of fighting with them about it. He ended up changing his mind about me meeting his, so I broke up with him. We got back together in December and he is now graduating tomorrow, and I was supposed to meet them before the ceremony, he told me 2 months ago, but he hasn't said anything to them about us. I don't know what to do.